about 5 years ago and left MTSU 2 weeks after I got tenure, as a matter of fact, and decided to become director of schools. Don't ask me why. It was just one of those calling things, which I guess is my message to you. If it's not a calling to do what you think you want to do as far as teaching, then get out now, because it's too hard about it. The other thing I would say is to those folks who tell you that teaching is tremendously hard, it is, but to tell you not to go into it, they're absolutely dead wrong. Because what I know is that teaching is the most important profession in the world. If you think about it, the lawyers, the doctors, the garbage people, the cafeteria managers, the president, you name it, they all had teachers, right? So they all had to learn, and what you do then is the most important profession in the world. So if you're not called to do it, if you don't like children, and I'm talking all ages of children, even adult children that we all are, then don't go into it, because the profession's too important. So don't mess it up. Leave it alone. It has enough people trying to mess it up without the people within trying to mess it up. So when I talk about Murfreesboro City and kind of what I believe, these are kind of the things that we hit. We hit culture and teaching and leadership, and we're going to be talking tonight primarily about high school too. So don't feel bad. But the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And what's the main thing? What's the main thing? Students. So every decision should be made then based on not big people, not teachers, not principals. It's a lot easier said than done, because when it comes to budget time, then my decision is, and your decision as a teacher is what I'm asking, is it really based on helping students learn, helping students grow, or is it what I want? So we talk about tools, toys, and trash. Tools are things that really help student learning. Toys are things that are just kind of nice to hang around. You know. Trash is something we won't need. And in a lot of teachers' classrooms, there's a whole lot of trash. Just because we had the money to buy it, or just because it was something that was really effective 20 years ago, and it's not effective now. So we talk about tools, toys, and trash. And a lot of times I'll ask principals, okay, is this really a tool? Or is it a toy, is it trash? Because we don't have room in education for trash anymore. It's got to be a tool. Now, that tool can look like a lot of different things. Because if you think about it, a tool is something that really engages you and helps you. And so that's the way it is with students. So the main thing is to keep the main thing. And we all agree that the main thing is? All right, don't forget that when you get in the classroom, and don't forget that when you become a principal. So here's the way we work in Murfreesboro City. The focus first is on the children, and that's been really hard this year because of all the changes at the state level. It's really hard to focus on teachers, and you have to focus on teachers to a degree, but the most important thing still is the students. And I'm going to give you a PowerPoint, but I'm not going to give it to you yet because I've got some things I want us to discuss. So, in a normal organization chart, who's on top? In a normal school district, who's going to be the main boss?
Board.
Yeah, the board is. And then I answer to the board, okay? And then basically, I'm their only employee. So I hire everybody else. So the thought is, gee, that director of schools is really on top. Well, what's really important is for the children to be on top. Because my job is to help each one of these people be more effective. Now, I didn't say support. Why wouldn't I say support? Why wouldn't I say my job is to support teachers? Why has that become important to me not to say that, but to say is to help them become more effective? Talk to me about that. What's the difference in supporting and helping people be more effective?
Sometimes you have to tell them no.
Yeah, sometimes you have to tell them no. Other thoughts about that?
Supporting makes it sound like you're carrying them, or if you want more.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can. If you're a rotten teacher, I'm not going to support you. I'm sorry. I'll help you be more effective, but I'm not going to support you. So my job is to help people be more effective because our goal is students, remember. So it's really important that communication goes up and communication comes down. So it's really important that I know what the needs are here and that I know what the needs are here. And that only happens if there's open communication. So the other part, before we get to the open communication, is we believe in the whole child. Why?
all of those needs have to be met in order to teach a child much of anything.
Yeah. So that means what? What kinds of things would I be looking for to have access to? Boy, there's two drop prepositions in one sentence. But what kinds of things, if I believe this, and I believe that my job is to help people more effective, and if what you say is true, is that you've got to have these needs met before you ever hit the academic needs, then what kinds of things would you expect to see me looking for in our district or to help our district?
Addressing poverty and hunger.
All right, addressing poverty and hunger. So hunger, we have what we call the Community Eligibility Program, which has free breakfast, well, no-cost breakfast and lunch for all children. And now we've started also feeding supper. We're a pre-K 6 district. That's really important. Did the teachers like having breakfast in the classroom? Some didn't. Some did. They said things like, we're not janitors, we're not waitresses. But what I did is I took some key teachers in each school to see a program someplace else where it worked. And if you convince teachers that this is going to be good for children and it's not going to be a real pain for you, they'll go along with it. So that was key. So next week we have folks coming to Murfreesboro for the second time in the school district, because the first time they just brought their district staff, and I said, you need to go back and bring some principals and teachers. Because what our teachers will tell you is it works, and it actually saves instruction time. So breakfast in the classroom, free lunch, supper served, what else? What else, what other kinds of needs?
Demographic backgrounds.
All right, so demographic backgrounds. So what does that look like as far as budget? If I have a school that's 90% free and reduced and a school that's 10% free and reduced, what do I need to be doing?
Running school supplies.
All right, finding school supplies for those that are 90%. And what's interesting is some of our schools are partnered, but yes. So we have school supplies that we find every year. Back to the basic needs, we also have about 500 backpacks that go home every weekend. So what else? School supplies, we mentioned. Okay, we mentioned food. What else?
Clothing.
Clothing. So we have access to clothing. We have what's called an Indigent Children's Fund that provides that clothing. So what you'll see in a school district that really believes this is somehow they find ways to fill the holes. We started a mobile health unit here in town. The school district actually started in partnership with the hospital so that our families, and it goes from school to school, it also goes to Rutherford County now, our schools have access to health. We have a partnership with the Guidance Center where 4 of our schools actually have therapists. My big deal is within the next 3 years, I want what's called integrated health care, because we're seeing mental illness with our children, and there's no help for it in this area. So those are the kinds of things that you expect to see then if you believe in the whole child. I had somebody tell me they thought the whole child meant, well, we're teaching math, we're teaching social studies, we're teaching science, we're teaching reading. No, it has to do with the person of the child. So if you believe those kinds of things, then it makes sense, and these are your 4 values. So truth, trust, open communication, and focus first on children. Which one is the hardest, do you think, to get?
I would think open communication would probably be the hardest.
Okay, why?
It's hard to be vulnerable with other people, especially people you don't know. And it's hard to get your children to be open with you, especially if they come from a rougher background.
Right. Okay. Any other guesses?
Trust.
Trust, why?
Kind of for the same reasons that she said.
Okay? Yeah, we don't like being vulnerable, do we? Which is a real issue with teachers, because your students know when you don't know. So it's better to say, I don't know, but I'll check on that and get back to you. Don't fake it with kids. They know. They know when you're not there. They know when you're sick. So you may as well tell them. If you built that relationship, they'll help you with that class. If you haven't built that relationship and you wind up sick one day, they'll kill you. Just tell them. Right? Any other guesses? The hardest one for me has been truth. Which, and let me explain that, because it means that you have to really look at where you are. It means that I have to look at what my actions actually are. And sometimes I don't want to do that because I think I'm perfect, right? Like everybody else. So, and it also means that you have to look at your schools and your teachers and your principals, and you have to see them for whether they are effective with children. Not whether you like them, not whether you think they're swell and they get out there and talk a really good game, but truthfully, what are they doing? What does the work look like? What is the true thing that's going on in that school? Any comments about that?
Sounds like it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
That might be one of the issues to finding out truth is just like you have to spend a period of time with them.
It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of getting to know people and building relationships. So, pardon?
A lot of reflection.
A lot of reflection, yeah. And knowing what questions to ask, and it's okay for people to come in the office and tell me, and this is really difficult for some of them. When I came in, I can't stand the boss-employee relationship. It drives me nuts because I really believe that we're all in this ballgame together. So I feel like that you should be able to ask me anything, or you should be able to tell me, hey, Linda, that was a really rotten presentation. Here's what you need to do to fix it. And that was really hard for them at first. They weren't used to that. They did not, you could see them cringe whenever they disagreed with me about something. Now, if they see me and I'm about to write an email, they'll say, okay, Linda, back away from the computer. You don't need to write that right now. Or, you really weren't very nice in that meeting. Or, let me tell you, that wasn't really good, what you did. Or, what was that meeting about? I thought it was a total waste of time. Those kinds of things are important. So that open communication means that I have to have my feelings someplace besides on my sleeve, or they're going to get knocked off all the time. So getting me to recognize truth and getting other people to be willing to tell me truth, really hard. And it does take time. It does take time. Any other comments about that? Okay. All right. So what we've had to do is move from teaching to learning, move from isolation to collaboration. So it's not good enough for you to stay in your classroom and not share, and it's not good enough for me not letting you know what's going on, and for you not to let me know what's going on. And then from intentions to results. Okay, so I'm going to do, I want to know what you did, not what you're going to do. And we do this through partnerships. So we have a lot of partnerships with all these different agencies, and we also do it with professional learning communities. Now, I want to get into a little bit about what makes you tick. So I want you to stand up, please, because you've been sitting. I want you to divide yourself into three, and I don't care, and I want you to participate too. So divide yourself into three different groups, okay? Three different groups. Yeah, I know, that was not clear.
Well, we should divide up because you guys are always together.
We like, I'll go this way.
Okay, come this way.
I'm just
I like
saying.
your behavior. It's always interesting to see this. Now, there are really neat ways that you can divide classes, but I want you to see what you all do. Okay, so one of you in your groups, come get a marker and get a sheet of paper, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down, I want you to agree on 5 things that you think good teachers should have, okay? So characteristics, 5 things of real good teachers. And get to know your group because you're going to be together again in a few minutes. So 5 things. 5 characteristics of good teachers. Now, I'm not talking money, good looks, a car in the garage, but 5 characteristics of good
It'll be hard to
teachers.
limit it to 5.
Think back to your favorite teachers.
There you go.
Done it.
They have to have patience.
Like just words or?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like.
In the opposite order.
I think they should have.
I thought you meant that as in like, yes,
Passion for teaching.
5 characteristics.
I mean, it's like.
Like, basically liking up, liking what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta wanna do it.
So be careful with the teaching. She
Just the passion.
very first.
In case.
Yes, more
That's what she said.
Try to bring them, try to help them on their way and get a little bit connected.
Okay, you gotta come up with 5.
You kind of alluded to it when I asked you what about passion.
I want to like keep it here and like draw a line here.
Yes, I was just saying, I meant for the.
Yeah.
All right, get your 5th one down. Good teachers, 5 characteristics, good teachers.
Team nutrition.
That's the whole thing of saying.
Working together.
Now, beside each word, hold on, we got the red group, they're working on it, they're almost there. No, don't put it up here, we're not finished. Yeah, you gotta take it out. Now, beside that, I want you to draw something that would, a graphic representation of what you mean by that. So, for example, over here with patience, I've got several of you that have patience. I want you to draw what that looks like. So when I see it and when others can see it, they know exactly what that means, okay? It can be stick figures, it can be tacky things, I don't care. But a visual definition of what that looks like, so that people know.
Either one.
Two architecture.
Picture of what that looks like. So when you see that picture, you're going to say, man, that's exactly Linda Gilbert. Or that's exactly. Okay? So exactly what that looks like.
How about for organizational skills, we can draw a scenario and a square hole.
Hey, Sue's journals are so much fun to grade. They're covered with art.
Because it's easy to say it, but you got to know it when you see it. So
I'm caring. I have a care.
My dad always just go, I got right there, and I was like, okay, time to win.
So do that with each of the 5.
No, no, don't call it.
Still
like 2 + 2 with the little kid and a heart. Okay, whatever. Draw one with the heart on it. Oh, really? How do you know what they look like? Yeah, those are theirs. Wow, you're really good. See, I wouldn't even know what they look like. But you got the hair and everything. The heart here. Yeah, zero heart. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Going down. Okay.
I just learned that you know Parker Gun. I have weird exception there. I didn't know that.
No idea.
I knew that. I think you did. But I only have words every
What's the one that was stretchy and strong?
Oh, really?
Right. Flexibility. Or like the gym.
That's all.
Curious.
Yeah.
Like a rubber.
I
I can tell what that is.
Yeah.
We need placement of high school.
maybe like a,
I was just curious.
okay.
I thought it was
And this is part of the
and
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow.
How are you so good?
It's either gonna be really cool or.
It really helps with the heart.
Wow.
Wow, that is I feel the pain.
Okay, a couple more minutes.
Wow. She's awesome. Really skinny legs. I'm serious.
Can we make it a
Doing the tug of war.
One more minute. And within that minute, I want you to decide who your spokesperson for your group is going to be.
It's so funny. Yeah.
You can do that with threatening each other. Volunteering. Makes it a little nicer for the
Or
community
just two hands
plans.
Or I like to know how I could call them. Yeah.
Maybe that's the illustration that you have to be patient. Waiting for the drive.
I'm scared.
Get like super mad.
Oh, dude, that's so we can just put it in right
Oh, today Mark got me on video. And I'm like,
Is that in a bowl or is it with the tail?
It's enough.
and I was just like,
Yeah, that's cool.
and he was like,
Maybe we can do a clock.
I was like, man, I look mean.
All right, go ahead and post. And let me have everybody sit down except the spokesperson. Or you can stand up with your spokesperson.
Wait, what did you say?
I said one dude. It's gonna be here. Because there's no time in that. But.
Yeah, that's what we did our major.
Today I had to draw big here.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't know that. Like, I don't even know.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you choose to stand with your spokesperson, you may. If you choose to sit down, you may.
Yeah, but it's first is
But you turn
They have a really hard too. Theirs is in hardcore as well.
Okay, are you where you're going to be? I want then the spokesperson, and if you have an accompanying group, to shift one to the right. So you're coming here, you're going there, and you're going there.
So what?
Let me do it one more time. You're coming here, spokesperson. Spokesperson here is going there, spokesperson there is going there.
That's okay.
Wait, do we have to talk about there?
Yes.
One of them, the spokesperson.
Okay.
Whoever y'all nominated as the spokesperson.
So whoever's the spokesperson for this group is
I
not
guess
standing
I
notice.
can go, but I don't want to.
Whoever was the spokesperson for this group is going to be forced over there.
Why are you here?
How quickly they abandon you. Okay, so who is the spokesperson? You're the spokesperson for the group that was originally over there, right? Who's the spokesperson for the group? Okay, and who's the, you are?
Confusing.
It's okay. All right, I would like you to explain this, please.
Okay, for me, looking at this, I see their patience as a clock because we all have to be patient for time to pass and we all have to keep up with things and keep our heads about us as time passes because sometimes it passes too quickly. Understanding, you have to meet with someone and sometimes your ideas have to click and if they don't, you have that aha moment about how to get the point across. On the growth mindset, looks like they have a brain growing with a tree. And the fact that you will be growing for a very long time, and it's a good idea to keep your brain growing with you. Passion and teaching for kids. We have a flame with a heart. You have to love your kids and never let that flame, and the reason that you started this was that position go out. And commitment, we have 2 wedding rings because a commitment to teaching is a lifelong commitment to not only teaching but to learning, and you've married the passion for your job, and even after you leave the school system, I don't think it ever goes away.
That's why I didn't want to do it.
Wow, really good group you are.
And plus,
Yes,
All right, who's
Yeah, it
the
wasn't me.
spokesperson here then that came from this group? All right, go for it.
Okay.
Now, was there a little conferring going over there? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, patience, I would say again, is this is, what do you call it? Sand timer? I don't know. Hourglass, sorry. A sand timer.
Sort of has sand.
So like, I think of like patience all different kinds of ways. So like, if you're having problems in the classroom, you have to kind of like step back, take a deep breath, and see how you're going to handle it. And then also not just in the classroom, but with your colleagues or other teaching friends. Caring, I feel like this is a Care Bear, and it's like you kind of have to
Everybody goes, oh.
like have the bear to like hold on to, like those are your kids and you care for them. Passion, again, you have like the burning in your heart for the teaching and for the students. You can't have one without the other. Flexibility, so like being able to bend over backwards not only for your kids but for your job and take risks where you need them. And teamwork makes the dream work, so you work with your kids and you work with your colleagues. And this, I don't know what this is, but this is the team.
They're all
Creating a log or something.
Oh, man.
They're all agreeing to carry whatever they do.
Oh, yeah.
Applause, applause. All right, now this one. After standing deserted from her group, they all left her. Go ahead.
Okay, so patience, and I think they drew an infinity symbol, so be patient forever. Love for students and subject, just love what you do, especially if it's reading.
Just saying.
Then you have compassion with eyes flaming, heart eyes flaming. Is that an emoji? Yes. So yeah, just be on fire for what you do. Organizational skills and good time management. Just be organized. Keep your squares in the square hole and the circles in the. You'll be great. Lifelong learner. So starting next year, 2016. And you just keep learning. Or in 2010.
Just do it.
Sit down. So, here's what I'm looking for. And again, I'm going to give you this PowerPoint in about 2 minutes, but we have one more thing to do. Okay. So this, if you look at this, in a lot of ways you hit what we're talking about. So a passion for learning, your own learning, and your children's learning. And then passion for the profession. So I noticed there was a lot of passion around the room, which is controlled passion's a very good thing. Working teenagers, you gotta be careful with that, because they're gonna have passion. But passion for learning, passion for profession. Remember we were talking earlier, don't cheat the profession, do your best. If you don't want to be there, get out. And I tell teachers that, and I tell principals that as a group, what you do is so important. If you don't want to be there, then don't be there. Go do something else. Because it requires passion, and it requires compassion as you can. Inquisitive, looking for new ways to do things, new answers. I believe in that. I think you will see, while I would say for the last 4 or 5 years that hasn't become important, here's why I think that's going to become important. When I say workforce development, you need to know that that's what drives what we do, really. A community is going to have a need for the workforce, and you are building skills for that workforce. Now here's the conversation I had the other day. I was with the chamber and they were talking about that what they see as two of the greatest needs in the next 5 years or so, IT and healthcare. In high school, right now, in the CTE classes and in the pathways, all the smiles on faces, that's me, that's me. All right, but in the CTE classes, which I believe in, by the way, I think we have to be careful that we are not preparing just for skills, for the jobs, for today. Because if you think about, here's the deal. I have kindergarten students, right? How long is it going to be before they're in the workforce? How long is it going to be? Yeah, like almost a lifetime to you guys, right? So if you think about that many years back and what healthcare looked like, okay, and what IT looked like that many years back, to say that in kindergarten, first, second, and they've got to have those foundational skills, right? Because when they get to middle school, all of a sudden their brains are not going to click on and say, oh, now I need to learn this kind of math for this kind of job, right? So if you think about that, if I believe that I'm preparing kindergarten students for the workforce, which a lot of people have trouble with, but basically that's what we're doing. We want them to be productive citizens. Well, when you think about productive citizens, what does that mean? Yeah, they're working. They're making that $1 million that professors make now. All right, so they're going to have productive jobs. So basically, whether we like it or not, and I'm not talking to robots, but what I am talking about is this thing right here. Because what makes the difference in that Coke bottle and another bottle, and if that one will sell, is really the creativity that went into the design of that Coke bottle or that color drink. If that drink were black or looked like mud, trust me, or maybe looked like the chemicals that might have had to go into creating it, we wouldn't be drinking it. So, in my opinion, we are going to begin to see a lot more push toward creativity, toward thinking, toward students being able to think. Now here's the problem. Some of us as teachers were not taught to think. And by that, understand what I mean by that, because you know I love teaching, right? But as far as being able to find multiple answers to questions, as far as being able to have a conversation with students that's driven by a teacher to help them think deeper, as far as being able to have them think and problem solve 3 different things at one time. You have to do that every day. I have to do that every day. I can't do that if I can't do this. Okay, so that one's important. Flexible, able to change. You already talked about that a little bit. And if there's anything that's certain, it's change in the world and in education. Think about the change that's happened just last week because of what happened in Paris. Think about the change that will happen next week because of that. So this constant change, you have leaders that were going into a conversation that was a very different conversation a week ago than it is this week. So if I'm preparing students for jobs 14, 16 years from now, it's going to be a very different conversation that they would be having with their bosses then than what they would be having now. High expectations for your students and for you. Because a student does not speak English does not mean the student is stupid. Okay? Because the student came from the projects does not mean the student is not brilliant. We have a real problem with categorizing people because of what they look like and because of where they came from. And it's a huge mistake that we make as teachers. We cannot do that. So high expectations for your students and high expectations for yourself. And then in our school district, you gotta have heart, you gotta love kids, you gotta work hard. That's it. If you don't want to do this, then don't come to me, because I don't want you. I can teach how to teach. I can't teach you how to do these things. Who you are as a person is more important than who you are as a product of this institution. Okay? I want to raise people and help people. I don't want to come out with a product. And understand what I mean by that, okay? I want a whole person. I want a whole person working with children. I want a person who can help develop children as whole people. That's important. Okay. Questions about that? thoughts about that. When you walk into a school district, and in a school you can feel whether this is there. Do I have it in all of our schools yet? Completely? I did. It's kind of gone downhill with the testing. I've decided we've got to get back on the mountain. But you will be able to feel that culture in that school. When you walk in that school and you don't hear things that reflect things that you think you should hear or see things that you think you should see, don't go there. Because you will spend your time fighting against who you are and what you believe in. And it's not worth it. Be true to yourself. If you are an excellent teacher, stay an excellent teacher. Stay out of that lounge. Ran into one of my students who's teaching, and she said, Miss Gilbert. And I said, yeah. She said, you don't remember me, but, so you'll get a lot of that, which is really cool. I don't go in that teacher's lounge. Good thing. We're good. Stay out of the teacher's lounge. Okay. If you don't have questions, comments from me, any of you, about any of that, I'm just telling you what I believe.
I think that
That's all I can do.
comment about that we were talking about the dispositions and testing, are you going to get more into that?
I can.
Cover that
You
now?
want to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
We're
Questions you have, go ahead and ask me. What?
So, in relation to the team rubric,
Yeah.
are you satisfied, and how much are you satisfied with the way that the team rubric works to evaluate teachers, and what are you looking for in the evaluation of good teaching?
Okay, if you looked at the team rubric, how many things are up there that are on the team rubric?
High expectations.
High expectations.
That's about it.
Okay. So I let go of 3 level 5 teachers last year.
How many?
3, which is a lot. And I kept some level 1 teachers. Because I had a conversation with the principal and I asked why. And when they could explain why, it was fine. Level 5 teachers that don't really care about kids and that are not willing to work as a team, because what I know is teaching's hard enough that it has to be done as a team, and we do operate with professional learning communities, which you have to collaborate, because I do believe that the collective mind is greater than one mind. So there were just some issues that I said, when the principal said, you know, I have a real problem with this teacher, they're not collaborating, or I have a real problem with the teacher because they don't like kids. Well, then don't keep the teacher. The team rubric, I think, has some very good things about it. I think it has forced some principals into classrooms where they were not before. What I ask our principals is to go into every classroom at least 3 times a week. Now, when I sit down with them and they say, well, they haven't been able to do that, and they explain why, then I'm good with that. But I'm not talking about staying in a classroom for 15 minutes. I'm talking about going into the classroom, popping in, seeing what's happening. Are the kids working together? Are the kids thinking? Are they sitting and watching videos? If they are, you better doggone know that video is linked to learning somehow. Are they on computers, but are they really learning on computers, or are they wasting time? And you can do that. When you walk by the 3rd grade classrooms, are you hearing the same kinds of things being taught as far as standards? Here's why that's important. In a school district where you have as much mobility as we have, it's totally unfair for children. If I have a teacher that believes you ought to teach addition and then multiplication, and I have another teacher that says, I believe you ought to teach addition and subtraction, if those children move from school to school, they're missing a whole lot. They're missing foundational skills. So I don't expect people to be on the same page the same day, but I do expect them to be in the same ballpark as far as what standards they're teaching as a grade level, because they sit down once a week and they decide and they plan together. So those kinds of things you can find out with just walkthroughs. And those walkthroughs become real important because that's where the truth is a lot of times. Because teachers are pretty good at doing, even with the team rubric, a dog and pony show. So that principal has to be in those classrooms and know what's happening in those classrooms. So team rubric, I think as a rubric, It is fine. I would like to see it changed because there's a real push from the state, and I agree with them that it needs to be more instead of what the teacher's doing, what the students are doing. It bothers me a little bit that that language hasn't been changed because that's what is being touted, and I agree with that, that it is about, it's not about whether I'm standing up here preaching, because some of you may be just trying to decide what you're going to do for supper or how in the world you're going to get homework done, okay? You're not learning, but it should be based on student learning. Right now, the verbiage is based on teacher action. So I think that it has its place, but I don't think it's the know-all be-all. And I don't know of any superintendents that are worth their salt that will make that be the determining factor for keeping a teacher or not. It's more about who that person is, I think, and whether that person is willing to learn, and whether that person, if a person is focused on children and willing to learn, they're going to do what's on that rubric automatically, because they're a doggone good teacher. If they're not going to do what's on the rubric. Or they may do it only when you're in that classroom, but they're not going to have that in-depth knowledge. And when you walk in and the teacher's doing something and the students look like it's brand new and they've never done it before, then you know there's a problem, because you know then they're doing it just because you're in that classroom. That's kind of the way I feel about that.
I like that. That's the nitty-gritty.
That's just where I'm coming from. And I do have, every year there's a test that we have to take for being able to evaluate teachers, and I know I don't have to do it, but I do it every year because I want to know what the principals are going through. So I want to know what's expected in that rubric. And I know there's some superintendents that don't evaluate all the principals, but I do because I think that's important.
So you evaluate principals. So they are responding to
They have their own rubric.
a
The
rubric
state
of their
has.
own.
Right. And the way I evaluate them is a little bit different. It's more of a conversation than it is bringing in all this big portfolio of stuff. We have PLC meetings weekly, and I do ask them to turn in a PLC notebook, and I'm in the process right now of going through those, and I'll put sticky notes on to say, hey, thanks so much for doing this, or if there's something on there that they're saying we're having a real problem with, then I'll say, did this get fixed? Or I'll ask the guys, hey, have you heard about so-and-so having a problem at such and such a place? Can you check on that, make sure it got fixed? So it's not a gotcha kind of thing. It's more of a really, I want to know what's going on, kind of what's happening. Yes, communication too. And I advise that, by the way. I've seen, and I have principals that will write notes on the PLC notebook. And I think I would do that with students. If you're asking students to turn in stuff, give them feedback on it. It matters. It really matters. So I can look at those PLC notebooks and we have conversations about, okay, when I sit down with them, some of them just schedule their evaluations, and they said, what do you want? And I said, I want to know how things go into the classrooms. Are you able to get in the classrooms? I want to know what you see as far as what's different in instruction last year and this year. How are you as far as you set goals for yourself at the beginning of the year? How are you progressing as far as that goes? And I'll always ask them, what can I do to help you be more effective? Because I think that's really important. So those are the kinds of conversations we get. Tell me what teachers you're really questioning whether you're going to renew, because I want to know ahead of time. Because my idea is I want our folks in there helping, like my central office is never there. They're always at the schools helping folks. Because I want our folks in there then helping to support that teacher, not support, but help that teacher be more effective. And I want to know if you turn into me that you want to nominate this teacher, I want to know we've done everything we can to make sure that teacher has succeeded. I want to be sure that we've done our due diligence with that teacher. So, how much have you looked at the team rubric? A lot. What do you think about it?
I'm not particularly fond of it as a whole.
Why?
I just, as you go through it, it's a lot to it, especially to evaluate in one lesson. I think that if you maybe broke it up and evaluated a different section at a different time, the teaching might be more consistent than, I feel like it almost leads to a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
every time you know that you're having an evaluation coming up, because there's so much to cover in order to get a 4 or a 5 on it.
Here's what I would do. If you're in a situation like what you ought to be in, that principal's going to kind of know what he's going to see or she's going to see coming into it. And if I were that principal in today's world, with the new test coming out, I would be looking for depth more than I would. And so I would be looking for depth of instruction where you see a lot of those things mesh together rather than just pull apart. And I would say, you're not going to see so-and-so, and here's why. And I think if you do that, then I think it helps. They need to be prepped. Because there's some things on there, it may not make sense that you're doing on that particular day. But say, here's what we're doing tomorrow, and here's what we did yesterday, and there are those indicators. And a lot of times what I find is principals will go in that next day, if there's part of the rubric, if you say that kind of thing that they didn't see, so that they can see it. Because a good principal's going to want you to succeed, because if you succeed, your children succeed.
And I think that's really cool, so thank you.
Other things about the rubric. The rubric is there, in my opinion, and a lot of the state laws are there because principals and superintendents did not do their jobs. If we had been doing our job and had the high expectation and been giving the kind of professional development we needed to be doing and focused on hiring principals who really were instructional leaders instead of managers, and can they work a schedule, and can they get the money in on time, and are they the cousins of so-and-so, and I use that in many ways, really flippantly, but I think we were not doing our jobs. And so I think then the legislature says, okay, by golly, it's not good enough for our children to be graduating and not be able to be a productive citizen. So I think we did it ourselves. I think some of us practice what I call dedicated complacency, which means we were really dedicated, we're really working in our schools, doing what we need to do, but we're complacent to what the world needs, and we're complacent to letting the world know what we're doing. So I think that we, in many ways, brought a lot of this on ourselves. And when we tell our children not to go into teaching, we don't need to be there. If we're going to say that and say, I don't want you to go into teaching, it's too hard, that destroys our profession. It's not good. Okay, nothing to go. Okay, go back into your groups. Remember where you were, even those of you who were abandoned by your group. So you can influence them next time.
I didn't understand their
I want you to act out the one thing that is most important to teenagers. Okay? So we talked about what makes you tick, what makes teenagers